someone asked you for help, you would help them in any way you could, yes? Regardless of what anybody else had to say? Of course you would. Let's say you're volunteering at a soup kitchen in Queens and that you dedicate yourself to this because it breaks your heart to see that the houseless are so often ignored. Then someone approaches you and tells you, "You're wasting your time. There are children in Syria who need you so much more than anyone here." What do? Do you stop volunteering at the soup kitchen? It sounds ludicrous, but I hear statements like this multiple times every week. As an animal rights activist, I am proudly the runt of the litter of social justice advocates. Although I do have to tell you that animal rights is the fastest growing social justice movement at the moment. When anyone tells me that I am wasting or misdirecting my energy, I ask them, who do you fight for? And I ask this knowing full well that they're not going to have a straight answer for me, because if they did, they would never have questioned the work in the first place. E. Venzler has said of activists that we are, quote, driven slightly mad by some injustice, some cruelty, some unfairness, end quote. When we think of madness, one of the first images we might see is of a person hearing voices, yes? Well, it's not lost on me that animal advocates are often referred to as a voice for the voiceless. But declaring anyone voiceless has always rubbed me the wrong way. Of course animals have a voice. They coo when they're affectionate, and they shout when they are injured, just like the rest of us. Human children are often regarded as voiceless, as are members of marginalized groups, and even our Mother Earth. But every victim has their voice, but the sad reality is that most humans don't hear it, rendering those suffering almost as good as voiceless. When I'm running errands in my neighborhood of Hell's Kitchen, the rumbling neigh of the overworked carriage horses mixed in with the clanking chains and those heavy metal bits in their mouths, that sound causes my soul to vibrate with a deep and righteous anger as they plod through rush hour traffic, only to go line up on 59th Street. The tourists who underwrite this business have little idea that they are paying for the torturous confinement, abuse, and neglect of these emotional creatures. They don't hear the horses calling for help. But those of us who do, we hear it loud and clear, and that is why the issue of the carriage horses in New York City remains a highly charged one year after year. When you choose to act on a call for help, your own life changes. The mundane day-to-day is no longer an option because suddenly you're living in service of this desperate and urgent need that is bigger than yourself. Just last year, one day, I was arrested standing in the middle of a mass ritual slaughter in Brooklyn. On another day, I was sued by the horse carriage industry for successfully disrupting their business. A few weeks ago, I was topless in Soho, protesting the cruelty of Canada Goose outerwear. These are just a few of the simple ways that we can reach within and show up for any victim that's calling to us for help. I have stood in literal puddles of blood. I have heard screams that echo in my mind every day. And those screams drive me to use everything I have to fight for the billions of animals who are used, abused, and killed by the hands of humans. But that also means engaging in entrepreneurship, sitting across the desk from politicians, and the simple act of sitting at my laptop. You know, not every act is high intensity. But none of them are boring, and every act is filled with energy and meaning because they're all focused on making the world a kinder place for everyone. The voice that I'm hearing most often these days? Well, I'll tell you. One very late night, very recently, a baby Cornish cross chicken was lying in my lap. He was at slaughter age, which is between 5 to 7 weeks old. That he's exactly the chicken that ends up in a Caesar salad. 1 hour before he was in my lap, he had been crammed in an industrial crate with 20 others so tightly that he couldn't stretch or even stand all the way up. 2 hours earlier, he had been in actual hell. With what he had been through, he had every reason to never trust a human. But somehow, only 2 hours out of hell, and only 1 hour free from that filthy crate, he rested his overgrown body on my lap, relaxed his wings out a bit, rested his face deliberately on my hand, closed his eyes, and started to purr with contentment as he was finally able to rest and feel safe. Most people don't know that young chickens purr just like kittens, but they do. And that purr momentarily quiets the screams of all those who couldn't be saved, the screams that ring in my ears day in and day out. When you hear the call of a victim, they are calling for all of you literally in this room, but also all of you as an individual, a person with skills, time, creativity, passion, all available as tools in your own fight for justice. And when you hear that voice, that is an honor. That means that you are strong enough and sensitive enough to hear the one that so many cannot. I'm no one special. My experiences are very much like the experiences of so many activists who I am proud to call my comrades. People hear the voice of a victim and are driven slightly mad by some injustice every day. People just like you choose to say, I'll show up for you in every way that I can. I'd like to know whose voice is calling for you. And more importantly, what are you going to do about it? Thank you.